Hello and welcome to Focus. 70,000 children currently work the coal-rich mines in the northeastern Indian state of Meghalaya. The figures are according to human rights organisation Impulse, who suggests that children are often trafficked from neighbouring countries like Bangladesh and Nepal. Relatives sell them as bonded labour for less than $100 and many bring friends along with them under the impression they'll get a good job and earn lots of money. But the reality is that the mines are unregulated because they are all privately owned. In a moment, we'll be looking at the India case in more detail. But first, Frank Hageman, Chief of Policy and Research for the International Programme on the Elimination of Child Labour, joins me from The Hague, where an international conference on child labour is about to get underway. Welcome to France 24, Mr. Hageman. This isn't just a problem in India, is it? What do you hope to achieve at this conference?
We hope to foster further political will against child labour. We hope to mobilise funds, of course, and we hope to identify new approaches which will hopefully solve the problem of the worst forms of child labour within the next few years.
And this isn't just a problem for India, though, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We see child labour all over the world, and there are quite a number of countries which have much higher rates of child labour than India.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Hageman. We'll have to leave it there for now. Let's just turn our attentions to the coal mining children of India. Our correspondents there sent us this report.
Deep underground, 60 metres down, a coal mine in the Indian state of Meghalaya. Dark, damp and unsafe, they're gruesome conditions for anyone. Yet toiling away here in semi-darkness are children, small boys as young as 14.
Pull, it's very heavy.
It's very difficult work. I've been here 11 months. Once we go in, we have no idea if we will come out. We know we can die inside. If we're lucky, we'll come out, but we never know.
Because children are small, they're used to crawl into narrow tunnels called rat holes to chip away at the coal. It's dangerous and accidents are common.
It's just a small hole, so when you go inside, the roof might fall on you. Sometimes I get scared.
The children earn less than 200 rupees a day. That's around €3, just enough to feed themselves and survive. But this supervisor says many believe they'd make much more.
Teenagers like to earn money, and they think they'll be making 2,000 or 3,000 rupees a day down here.
Lured by false promises, the children become trapped in a terrible cycle of poverty. Child labour is illegal in India, but the state government says there's not much they can do, as the mines here are privately owned. It's an attitude which angers Purna Lama. He's worked in the industry for 5 years. Appalled by what he sees, he's brave enough to speak out.
Age is not taken into consideration here. Some children start working as early as 12 years old. When accidents happen, when people die inside the mines, the owner doesn't care and the government doesn't look into it.
But not everyone is turning a blind eye. Human rights campaigner Hasina Kharbhih is sounding the alarm. She says 70,000 children work in the industry here.
What's your name?
Sabar Ali.
How long have you worked?
I've been working 3 years.
You like the work?
I don't like it.
So why do it?
I have to eat.
It is very shocking because if India as a country has ratified the Convention on the Right of a Child, and violation of such right is so inhuman, and I don't think such inhuman things should be allowed to be continued in the years to come.
Hasina says many of the children come from Bangladesh or Nepal. Some are trafficked, sold by relatives as bonded labour. And this is how they get here. Every day, thousands of trucks take coal to Bangladesh for export. Some return with children hidden inside.
I've been driving for 15 years. And yes, some trucks do bring children back, although I've never let children travel in mine.
Illegal journeys and lost childhoods. This road may be paved with black gold, but until India clamps down on child labour, say campaigners, it's little more than a path of shame.
Well, the author of that report, our correspondent Natasha Butler, now joins me from London. Natasha, just tell me more about the conditions these child miners are working in.
Well, you could see in that report the mine shaft in Meghalaya, and that sort of shaft you can see all across the state. It's a deep shaft with a rickety wooden ladder, and children go down that ladder, and sometimes the ladder collapses. The tunnels that they burrow down below to chip away at the coal, often, again, the roof collapses and many children die. Many children told us that they've seen terrible accidents. There's no protective clothing, no safety measures, so you have children going down these mines with no helmets. The children I saw had raggedy T-shirts and shorts and simple outdoor shoes, and they're supposed to work in terrible conditions with no protective clothing. And not only that, they also live in absolute squalor because the mine owners don't provide any proper shelter. So they live next to the mine in makeshift camps with no proper sanitation, hygiene, and they drink and bathe in absolutely filthy water.
Why aren't the mine owners held accountable for this?
Well, it's a good question, and I mean the main reason is in fact that most of the mines across Meghalaya are privately owned. So basically, if you have land in the state of Meghalaya and you think there's coal underneath it, you're quite free to dig away and see what you can find. So that attracts people who perhaps are going to exploit their workers. Now, the government, the state government, I should say, they say they have no direct control over the mine owners, and so they don't really get involved. I mean, there are labour inspectors across the state, but only 7 for an enormous area. There are some 550 million tonnes of coal in Meghalaya, and there are absolutely thousands of mines across the state, and that's why those mine owners can get away with this kind of thing, employing children.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty and what the government can do, can you just explain to us how much of a problem child trafficking is in India?
Well, child trafficking in India is a huge problem. I mean, let's just look at this state of Meghalaya where we were. Many of the children working in these coal mines are coming from Nepal, they're coming from Bangladesh. Many of them are below the age of 10. And the problem is that traffickers go to poor rural areas in those countries and also in India in order to try and lure the children away. Of course, families are desperate in those areas. Many people in India don't have enough food to put on the table, so that can be very tempting for the families to perhaps sell their children as bonded labour, or for those children to go of their own will in some desperate hope that they're going to have a good job and a better life.
So what can the government do to change the situation?
Well, the government has actually signed the Convention of the Rights of the Child, so child labour is illegal in India. But I think one of the main problems is until the situation of poverty, until poverty is eradicated in India, it's very hard to see how children will stop being exploited in this way.
All right, Natasha Butler, thank you very much indeed for joining us from London. My thanks also to our other guest, Frank Hageman, the Chief of Policy and Research for the International Programme on the Elimination of Child Labour. That brings this edition of Focus to a close. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
In this week's Environment Show, we'll take a look at what President Obama has called a massive and potentially unprecedented environmental disaster and bring you the latest oil-busting techniques from Brittany.
Don't miss Environment. Today, 10:15 a.m. Paris time on France 24.